So what do you need to know about Charlotte before you choose your home sweet home? Hey, I'm 𝗖𝗁, local real estate agent in Charlotte, North Carolina. And if you're looking for everything Charlotte, the suburbs and surrounding towns, the good, the bad, and everything in between having to do with Charlotte, you have come to the right place. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you can stay up to date on everything you need to know and didn't know you needed to know. As I said, I'm 𝗖𝗁. I'm a local real estate agent to Charlotte, and every day we get calls, texts, and emails from people just like you who are looking to know more information about Charlotte and to make the move, sometimes across the country or across town. Let's dive into today's video. I'm actually going to go ahead and show you a map view of Charlotte, North Carolina, and explain to you how everything works. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to share with you what neighborhoods, suburbs around Charlotte, commute times, areas to avoid, and things you might not know you needed to know. So let's go ahead and dive in, and I'm going to show you everything you need to know and explain Charlotte to you. All right, everybody, so we're gonna dive in and learn a little bit about Charlotte. So let's start off with Charlotte itself. What we're gonna go do is talk about each of the areas of Charlotte, what you should know, and areas that you should avoid. So let's start with just diving in and exploring Charlotte a little bit. So this is Charlotte. I'll do a complete zoom out mode. So for those of you not familiar with Charlotte, we are on the East Coast in North Carolina. I absolutely love it here, in case you can't tell. As we zoom in a little bit closer, one thing I want you guys to understand is we flank some very major interstates here in Charlotte. So if we look to the north, we've got I-40, which sets just north of Charlotte. So here's Charlotte as a whole right here. I-40 sets just north, and that runs the entire state from east to west. In addition, we have I-77 that comes right down through Charlotte all the way out into South Carolina. The third interstate to take note of is going to be I-85, which comes up and across Charlotte, also heading a little bit more north. So fun fact, anything that is an odd number actually runs north-south. Anything that is an even number actually runs east-west. So we've got a few different things going for us here. Now, there's one other major road that does run through Charlotte, and that is 74. Now, 74 is a business route. However, it is the main route if you want to get out to, that's right, the beach. So if you follow it all the way down, you see you follow 74 all the way into Wilmington, which is the main primary beach that most people go to from Charlotte, as well as Fayetteville and Raleigh. We all kind of pop right down into Wilmington. It is the easiest to get to. Some people might think that the Outer Banks are closer than they are. Not actually. In fact, from Charlotte to up here over in Corolla, it takes about 5.5 hours, mostly because there's not any major interstates right there. So let's dive right back into Charlotte here. And so as we zoom in, we're gonna see that there are several lakes that flank the outskirts of Charlotte. So we've got Lake Tillery, Baden Lake, Lake 𝗖𝗁, which is down here. And we have, I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in there. So Lake 𝗖𝗁, the Catawba River. Right here is Mountain Island Lake, and the largest man-made lake on the East Coast, which is Lake Norman, which we'll talk about in another video. So what compromises or what compiles Charlotte? What makes Charlotte what it is? Well, if you take a look when we're talking about roads, Charlotte is encompassed almost entirely by I-485. So the 485 belt is what encompasses Charlotte. Now, if you take a look at this little red line that I see right here, that little red line actually is the outline of Charlotte, the city of Charlotte. Now, the county of Mecklenburg, so if we go ahead and search that real quick, as you can see, Mecklenburg County actually goes quite out and around there. So this is Mecklenburg County. So you can see it goes all the way up into Cornelius, down and out towards Midland, encompasses Mint Hill and all the surroundings. So when we're taking a look at this, it is definitely different. Charlotte is most of Mecklenburg County, but it's not all of it. So As we tuck into Charlotte just a little bit, you're going to notice there's another loop that goes right here, and it's a sort of loop, right? You can see that it kind of goes around, but it's not truly a loop. If we zoom all the way in, we see that this road actually changes names several times, but it creates a half loop in Charlotte. It's a very interesting road. So it starts out as West Sugar Creek Road, and as you follow it, it turns into Eastway Drive. As you continue and it crosses over 74, also known as Independence, we'll talk about that in just a little bit, it turns into Wendover Road, then Rymaid Lane, then Woodlawn, and then we circle all the way back over here where it turns into Billy Graham Parkway, and it's actually a 4-lane, all the way back up to I-85. So if we zoom out, it is a pretty major road that flanks right off I-85, goes around Charlotte, and yes, it is a way that you can get places a little bit quicker. Now we're going to go one step closer into Charlotte. Here we go. Now, if you see here, there's another little circle. Now this little circle encompasses downtown Charlotte. Now, for anybody who's moving here from New York, there is no midtown, there is no uptown, there's just a downtown. This threw me off when I first moved here because that just didn't make sense to me. But Charlotte is not the size of Manhattan, so we don't exactly have room for 3 different variations. It's just downtown. Now, we do have different wards, which we'll talk about in a moment. So if you see, I-77 makes up this wall right here for this circle, and the remaining is called 277. So it's 277, which is a U, and then I-77 on this side, which makes another loop. So this loop, if you want to access downtown Charlotte, this is pretty much how you're going to do it. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at 1 or 2 of the other side roads here that are important. One of the main thoroughfares of Charlotte, like I mentioned earlier, is 74. Not only is 74 a cut through of Charlotte, as you can see runs parallel to I-85 for much of the way, it branches off as it enters into Charlotte. I-85 goes north, and this continues to head east. Now I know it looks south, but it's heading east. Now, why is I-77 so important? Well, if we zoom out of Charlotte, we want to take a look at, of course, commute. Where and how are you going to get into town? Now, if you're in the northern area of Charlotte, you have several different areas or ways to get in. You can take I-85, take 77 if you're out towards Gastonia. Once again, you can take I-85 or 74. If you're on the south side of Charlotte, you can take I-77 and hop on 45. So 45 is available to anybody. However, there's this large section right here. I hope you guys can see this huge section right here. And if you notice, there's not many main roads that go into Charlotte, no interstate roads. So what are the main roads to get you into Charlotte? Well, the first one, if you're down in the Matthews, Stallings, Indian Trail area and in Mint Hill, your main road is going to be 74. Now this locally is known as Independence, all right? Independence Road, Independence Parkway, depending upon who you talk to. So Independence is going to run you all the way out of Charlotte, down into these areas to get you onto the outskirts. Now, the other main road that you're going to see is called, we're zooming all the way in, it's technically 24, but we call it Albemarle Road. So they do have 2 different variations. So if you hear 27, they mean Albemarle Road. As you can tell, it still takes 74 and branches off. But this allows people from Allen over in East Charlotte, people in Rocky River or Midland, Harrisburg, that allows them to get into Charlotte as well. Now, let's talk about the challenge of this, right? There's pros and cons always. Well, one of the pros of this is, well, there's a road that gets in there, and I will say I-74 has made some major changes. While it was once a road that actually had lights on it, meaning there were red light, yellow light, green light, and you would actually have to stop at 4-way intersections, the traffic was absolutely atrocious. Over the last 7 years, Charlotte has put a lot of funding into making Independence, or 74, a whole lot easier to drive. At this point in time now, as you can see, there's a lot of roads that intersect this. Now they are all overpass roads. That's right. So the roads either overpass it or go under it to allow the flow of traffic on Independence to be non-stop. Now, we'll talk about where you're going to find your most traffic here in a little bit, but I just wanted to point that out. Now, unlike Independence, Albemarle Road, or 27, is going to not be as easily passable. That's right. If you leave the house a little bit too late, you're going to sit in traffic. Why? Well, this one does still have 4-lane intersections, or 2 road intersections, should I say, red lights all along it, and you could get stuck in traffic. It's just kind of a, sorry. So that's kind of a challenge when it comes to the east side of Charlotte. But if you're on any of the other areas of Charlotte, you should have no problem. Now, there's probably one other road that you have noticed is a main vein. So if we take a look down here, you see this triangle that I'm creating? It's a semi-triangle. This is what I would call one of the most affluent areas of Charlotte. It is also one of the more highly trafficked and one of the more highly populated. So with that being said, if you are in these areas within Barclay Downs, or perhaps you're down in Beverly Woods, Providence Park, it might take you a little bit longer to get out of this area to an interstate to get somewhere else. So if you're planning on going to the beach, yeah, downtown Charlotte, it's about 3.5 hours from the beach. But if you're starting from in here, it might take you 15 minutes or so to get to that road, 20 minutes to get to that road to get out. So what is this main road that's taking us down out of Charlotte this way? Kind of, you can see it flanks Independence. If we zoom in, this is 16. Now, 16 goes all the way down. I'm trying to get into a way where you can actually see it. So as you can see, it flanks all the way into Charlotte and is originally known as Providence Road. Now, it does change names as it goes out, but it remains 16. And yes, it is a pretty heavily trafficked road because it is a main vein coming out of Charlotte. So we've talked a little bit about the main roads. Let's go a little bit more on the outskirts. Fort Mill and Rock Hill. All right, so I know this channel is about Charlotte, but let's face it, there's a ton of suburbs to Charlotte, and we sit right on the border of South Carolina. So let's talk about it. Fort Mill, Rock Hill, 𝗖𝗂. These 3 main areas are some of the most highly coveted, and in fact, Fort Mill and Rock Hill, as well as 𝗖𝗂 and 𝗪𝗪, have all been rated some of the top areas to raise a family, or best places to raise a family in South Carolina from niche.com. So niche.com does go through census data, etc., and they've determined that these are the best areas in South Carolina to raise a family. They rank varying. I believe Rock Hill was number 2. So if we take a look here, Fort Mill and Rock Hill, Indian Land, 𝗖𝗂, 𝗪𝗪. These are all great areas, and as you can see here, Rock Hill is quite a populated area. It's quite a bit bigger than Fort Mill, but here's your challenge. If you work in Charlotte and live in Rock Hill, you're gonna have a little bit of a drive. Now the biggest challenge with this, and a lot of people do live over the border in South Carolina and commute into Charlotte. However, think about this. If you live in Rock Hill and you're commuting into Charlotte every day, if you notice, there's only one road that can get you there. That's right, I-77. Now, with that being said, you're gonna have some traffic. Now, we're gonna look at traffic times here soon, and I actually am filming this at a time where we're gonna start to see some traffic popping up on the map for that exact purpose. So, so I still think that South Carolina is an incredible place to live. We service South Carolina, Fort Mill, Rock Hill, that entire area. And the biggest draw that people wanna live here and work in Charlotte are taxes. So the taxes are a little bit lower, but if you're coming from somewhere like New York, California, areas like that, the taxes are absolutely nothing compared to what you're paying right now. So keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and pop up to the northern side of Charlotte real quick, just to give you an idea of where it sits compared to the suburbs of Charlotte, okay? So Charlotte, Maine is right here, but then we have some really great suburbs around Charlotte. So the first one that I'm gonna go clockwise on this. So the first one I'd like to point out is Gastonia. So I'm gonna zoom in here. Gastonia is a phenomenal area. Honestly, it has come a long way in the last 15 years. It used to be known as an area you wouldn't want to be in, but with the amount of money and funding the town has put in, as well as the influx of people moving there, Gastonia has actually become a really wonderful place to live, work, and play. Just to the right of that is Belmont. Now you'll see there's a little heart on Belmont. I love the town of Belmont. It's so adorable. It's a very small, quaint little town. The population is quite low. But what I love about Belmont is that you're outside of Charlotte but you're still so close. Look at that. So if you're looking for that small town feel, kind of be on the Catawba River, little coffee shops and pubs, Belmont is definitely a place for you, and you are not going to miss Charlotte at all whatsoever, because it is a hop, skip, and a jump right over the Catawba River to get there. Now, as we head a little bit north, I'm going to go ahead and highlight some other areas here. So a little bit further out to our west is Lincolnton. Pull this over here. Lincolnton is a great town. It definitely is quite a haul from Charlotte. We're going to come back here in a minute and talk about commute times, but it is a little bit of a haul from Charlotte. One of the nicest things about Lincolnton, however, it's a small town. So it is a small town. They do have all of the things that you would want from a large city, right? They've got wonderful hospitals, plenty of shopping, so you don't have to leave there to find what you need, and they even have their own country club. Now, one other thing that most people don't know, Lincolnton also has its own county airport. Now, it's not going to pop up as easy on a search, but it is there, so if you are looking to fly in closer, you can definitely do that. So I'm going to zoom out again and scroll us over here. And this is where we're looking at, quote unquote, the lake. That's right. We talked about this earlier. Lake Norman is the largest man-made lake on the East Coast. We luck out here in Charlotte because it is right there. It flanks Charlotte right here. Absolutely love it. From where I live, which is in the northern side of Charlotte, it's about a 15-minute drive if we want to launch boats, jet skis, whatever we want to do. It's right there. So what are some of the towns that border Lake Norman? One of the first ones that we have here is Louisville. Now, Louisville is a very, very small town, and I'm honestly surprised it hasn't popped yet, but I think that's coming here soon. But it, at this point, is more of a pass-through. Now, we talked about 16, right? How 16 was that road that kind of comes down through. It turns into Providence Road right here on the south side. Well, if we follow it all the way back out, it's another main vein into Charlotte. 16 will take you all the way up to I-40. And in fact, when we go visit family in Asheville, which is out west in the mountains, we usually take 16, mostly because it's just a beautiful drive and there's very little traffic. Now, also on 16 is Denver. Denver has a really low population, only a little over 2,000 people, but it's a sprawling area. So as you can see, Denver, honestly, it kind of encompasses all of this area in here. The wonderful thing about Denver, not only is it on the on the west side of the lake right here, but as you can see, there is a lot of lakefront property and land in Denver. So a lot of people will battle, and we'll talk about this a little later, a lot of people will battle to get into the Cornelius-Davidson area for commute time and still have access to the lake. I personally think Denver is one of the, I would say this, I think it should be more highly sought after because it really is such a beautiful area and you have so much opportunity to live on the lake. Now over this way, if we cross over the lake, we've got the main town of Mooresville. Now Mooresville is counted as one of the more affluent areas of Charlotte. It flanks right off of I-77 and comes right into this area. There's so much that encompasses Mooresville. It's phenomenal. Now, over the last couple of years, Mooresville has absolutely exploded with growth, as you can see by the little bit of graying here. Graying means that it's a little bit more populated. But if we go ahead and scroll into Mooresville here, it's got this cute little downtown. It's been around for eons. And is also very close to the quarry at Kerrigan Farms. Now, I point out the quarry at Kerrigan Farms. They also have apple orchards and pumpkin patches, but it's a really popular place for people to go get married, have parties, weddings, and lots of swimming for the kids in summer. So that's kind of their little claim to fame over there. But very similar to most of the other areas around Charlotte, you've got everything you need. You've got Walmart, Costco, Publix. As we come over this way, it has a ton of dining and shopping and fun on the actual lake. So you've got the reserve, you've got Big Daddy's, which sounds really funny, but actually it's a cool little place. It's definitely your down home, I'm going to say Southern style, but they have a little bit of a lake flair. So it's kind of cool. Tokens, this place is really cool. It's right on the lake and it's usually very busy during summer. But why I point this out is in between, here we go, in between Mooresville and Denver, there's this great town known as Cheryl's Ford. Now, Cheryl's Ford is so far north from Charlotte, honestly, a lot of people just kind of discount it as it's not someplace I want to live if they're trying to commute to Charlotte often. However, it's really not too bad. Now, Cheryl's Ford, as you can see here, also offers a lot of lakefront property. So a majority of Cheryl's Ford, those who live there, are lakefront or in a lakefront community. What I mean by a lakefront community is there might be shared docks, boat ramps, things of that nature that the community has, that the neighborhood has, that you can use. So you don't necessarily have to have the house on the lake to have a boat on the lake, which is pretty neat. So we're going to go ahead and scroll back out there and head on back down I-77 to Davidson and Cornelius. Now, we're going to do a whole video on Davidson and Cornelius here soon, so stay tuned. I believe we already have our vlog tour up of it, but Davidson, really cute little town. I think it's actually one of my favorite small towns to go hop over and take a look, right? Just to walk around. They truly have the old bustling city street or old town with soda shop, coffee shops, little pubs and bars. And of course, one of my favorites, which is, when you're being touristy, you go in and you shop at the little boutiques. They've got these cute little boutiques right across the street from Davidson College. Now, Davidson College, it is a college that I believe they offer 38 majors and several minors, which is wonderful, but it's a liberal arts college in Davidson, and it truly is the heart of that community. Prices range within this, I believe it's the $560,000 range at this time, but great little spot to check out. Now, Davidson is on the lake, but if you notice, there's not a whole lot of lakefront when compared to the other towns we've spoken about. Now, Cornelius. Cornelius is known as the town that's on the lake. That's right. Most people who want to live on the lake, they desire Cornelius for many reasons. One, if you take a look, we're going to zoom out again, look at how close it is to Charlotte, right? It's got a huge community right out here on the lake, on Lake Norman. And if you follow Jeton Road all the way in, yes, it's pronounced Jeton, not Jeton, which I used to call it that when I first moved here. Thank you to those who corrected me on that. But if you follow Jeton all the way out, there are golf courses, country clubs. The Peninsula Club is one of the most popular areas or neighborhoods in Cornelius. It does have absolutely immaculate golf course. And there is also the Safe Harbor Peninsula Yacht Club. So if you are looking to harbor your boat, yes, I did that on purpose. Harbor your boat, that is a perfect place to put it. Now, one other thing I'll point out here is Ramsey Creek Park. Now, when you're looking for a beach and you're 3.5 hours from one, what do? Well, you make one. So down here in Ramsey Creek Park, there's actually a beach. That's right. They poured a bunch of sand out there. It is a beautiful recreation and leisure park. You can also launch and dock your boat here, not overnight, but you can hold on to it there if you need to for the day. So great parks, wonderful living in communities. And once again, its closeness to Charlotte makes it one of the most desirable communities for the lakefront. What do we need to know about this? The pricing. That's right. Cornelius is one of the most affluent areas of Charlotte, surrounding Charlotte as a suburb, and the price points have gotten quite up there. So I believe the average price point is somewhere in the 600s. But the cool thing about both Davidson and Cornelius is if you flank out to the right here, you don't always have to just be on the lake. There's some beautiful homes that are speckled all throughout here that you can go in and take a look at. Now, coming further south, we have Huntersville. All right, so Huntersville, personally, I think it is my absolute favorite suburb of Charlotte. It is completely underrated, and actually from a population standpoint, has far less people than I would have ever imagined. Let's pull this up here. Actually, I'm gonna look over here and take a look. Kim, just splice this for me if you don't mind, while I look at populations. So the population of The population of Huntersville is 57,000 people. Now, when compared to Charlotte, with almost 900,000 in just the city of Charlotte, it doesn't seem like a lot. But let's take a look at this. look at the actual outskirts of Huntersville, or the actual area. So the actual area of Huntersville is about 1/4 of the size of Charlotte, maybe a fifth, right? A fifth of the size of Charlotte, but it only has 57,000 people. The nice thing about this is you can get a beautiful home that is spread out. You don't have to be on top of each other. And they've got all the shopping and community that you could possibly want in and around it. The other thing is the average price point is $540,000. Now, Gilead Road is one of the main veins through Huntersville, as you can see, which pops you out on both sides. The next one is up here. I'm going to zoom in here. So the next one is Samfur Road, and the biggest shopping area is Birkdale Village. Now, the cool thing is you're still close to several different malls as well. Birkdale Village area, it's flanking, as you can see right up here, it's flanking Cornelius. But we've got Whole Foods, just about anything you could possibly want. And one of my favorites, because I love food, well, some of my favorites, they do have a Whole Foods there, but one of my absolute favorites, let me see if I could pull it up for you, is Viva Chicken. That's right. There are 3 locations in Charlotte, and I have eaten at all of them, and they are fantastic. Peruvian chicken, fast food, or food done fast, done right. I'll put it that way. So let's zoom all the way back out, and we're going to come over here, Skybrook and Highland Creek. Now, they are very similar. However, Skybrook definitely has its own golf club, as does Highland Creek. However, Skybrook usually runs about $200,000 to $300,000 more than Highland Creek. And right now there are new homes being built just north of Skybrook. It's Skybrook North, where their prices are starting in the mid 600s. Absolutely magnificent floor plans. I love them. So coming over our other suburbs of Charlotte, we've got Kannapolis and Concord. Now, I'm lumping them together, but they truly do have their own feel. A lot of people are moving to Concord, and I was honestly baffled at the population when I was taking a look at that. It actually has 30,000 people living in Concord, which was just kind of awe-inspiring to me. Now, if you notice, Concord sprawls quite a bit. So it's not just here. Concord goes for quite a ways. So from the Highland Creek area, if you're like, hey, I'm going to Concord, it could mean you're going right here, or it could mean you're driving 40 minutes to the other side through some back roads. Concord has been redeveloped and redesigned quite a bit and has had a huge uptick with regards to the health and human safety. So what I mean by that is hospitals such as Atrium and Novant have all moved into the area. And honestly, it's brought a lot of population growth. Some other things to know about Concord, honestly, if you are looking for an easy commute into Charlotte, still being close, but don't want to pay the prices or the taxes, this is in a different county in Cabarrus County. See, there's Cabarrus Avenue. So Cabarrus County does have far lower taxes, which is wonderful. So you can come into Concord and have either an older home, or there's plenty of new construction that's also being put in. Now, as we go just north, you see that I-85 goes through and separates Concord from Kannapolis. Kannapolis has also seen some major growth. And in fact, it was targeted as being the next Research Triangle. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with what the Research Triangle is, I'm going to zoom all the way out. And the Research Triangle has to do with Durham, Raleigh, and Chapel Hill. This area over here, right in between, is considered the Research Triangle. And that's because there's many companies from California and things of that nature that have moved into the area and, well, brought a lot of tech jobs. Well, with that being said, Kannapolis was targeted as being the next Research Triangle, and the city has pumped in millions and millions of dollars in infrastructure. They've got a brand new baseball field and baseball team, and most of the streets are being completely renovated with new businesses being put in every day. So if you see right here, this is one of the major areas of Kannapolis. And while you used to be able to buy a home for $40,000 there just 7 years ago, good luck finding anything under $180,000. So as we come over to the right-hand side of Charlotte, we have Harrisburg. So Harrisburg is a pretty decently sized area. It also kind of encompasses Rocky River, which is another town. Now, the nice thing about Harrisburg, you are on the outskirts of Charlotte. It definitely feels far more country, and it's sprawling. So there is a cute little downtown to Harrisburg right in here. You've got your Publix and shopping, but to be honest, there is no real hub. of Harrisburg. 49 goes right through, which is University City Boulevard, and there's really not much else to show for it. Personally, I like the area if you're looking for some country, but I don't feel like being that far out. If you notice, Harrisburg is right near University. Now, we call it University because it's the area that the university is in. So as you can see, Harrisburg is on University City Boulevard, which flanks what? The university. That's right. UNC Charlotte is right here on the northern side of Charlotte. And as we're about to start transitioning into commutes, I am going to tell you there is a train that actually goes from the university all the way down through NODA, coming down this way and into downtown Charlotte, and then back out the other side. We'll talk about that in a little while. Now, there's not a whole lot that's going on over here until you hit about Mint Hill. Mint Hill, as you can see, the intriguing part about this, it's on the interior of 485. So you don't have the Charlotte city taxes, but you're still in the county of Mecklenburg, and you still have very similar commutes. Now, Mint Hill is seen as just a part of Charlotte. Although you say you're from Mint Hill, if you're within 485, it's just Charlotte. That's the way it's looked at. So Mint Hill does have, again, a very cute little downtown, which I'm zooming in on right now. And there is some shops and restaurants and things that you can walk to, but it's got all the same amenities as every other area of Charlotte. So you do really feel like you're just in Charlotte. Matthews, for being inside the 485 belt, I feel is one of the best places to live, whether you're a young professional or someone with a family, or just you. Matthews has a little bit of everything. Not only are the prices a little bit lower than what you would find in Charlotte, like in Barclay Downs and things like that, Providence Plantation, it's just on the outskirts of that, but your pricing is much lower. So not only do you have the ease of commuting up 74 or 16, you're right off 485, but your taxes are a little bit lower because you're not paying city tax. You're right near Providence Plantation and just off from Piper Glen and Ballantyne, all of which are very affluent areas. So you have that presence of being in Charlotte, but with a little bit less of the expense, which is pretty nice. So zooming out just a little bit more, we've also got Indian Trail and Wesley Chapel. Now, these are for a commute time a little bit farther, but that's okay. The biggest thing that you're going to find at Indian Trail and Wesley Chapel, there's a lot of new construction. Now, there's so much new construction because people are moving out of the city. The city has gotten a little bit expensive for some people, so they are finding other areas to live. Now, you'll find this little gem right down here, which practically looks like it's almost even with being in Rock Hill. It is still in North Carolina. It's the town of Waxhaw. Waxhaw was rated Waxhaw was rated the most affluent area or suburb outside of Charlotte, which is pretty cool. Now, what you're going to find in Waxhaw, as you can see, it's a very little town, but there's a lot of new construction and average price points are well over the $700,000 mark, depending upon which area Waxhaw that you're in. Now, if you take a look, you're very close to the South Carolina border, so a lot of people used to like to hop the border and get some gas because it's usually a little cheaper in South Carolina, but you also have all the benefits of being in North Carolina. Now, as we round the corner here, I know we've talked about Rock Hill and Fort Mill, but I am going to touch on Pineville. Pineville is another area where it's a smaller town if you look at the actual outskirts of it right here, and it is one of the most southern towns to Charlotte or the surrounding areas on the border of South Carolina. Pineville is off of Pineville Matthews Road, and honestly, a lot of times gets encompassed into the Ballantyne West area. The reason being is just because it's so close. So as you can see, you are right in the hub of everything, right off 45, right off 77, 51. All of these come into conjunction right here, which makes it really easy to have, once again, lower prices for your property because it's not quite Ballantyne, it's not quite Quail Hollow, it's not quite these other areas. So you can get a lower price and still be within Charlotte, or should I say, seem like you're within Charlotte. So I know this has been a rather long video, but I'm going to point out just one last piece here, and we're going to talk about commute times. All right. So if you're looking on the outskirts of Charlotte, because again, this video is about the suburbs of Charlotte, not quite the interior, But if you're looking at the suburbs of Charlotte, we're going to look at commute times. If you're planning on going from Huntersville to Charlotte, we're just going to go ahead and put this in here. Directions. So from Huntersville, and this is going to pick a point right off of I-77, into downtown Charlotte, you're going to have about a 22-minute commute. That's not bad. Now, if I were to take this cursor and move it into the farther side of Huntersville, which is a very random spot, even so, you're still only looking at about 26 minutes. Now, we're going to change that up a little bit. We're going to take a look at Gastonia. So commute time from Gastonia, it's going to take you in through I-85 because that is the main point to get into Charlotte. You're not looking at too bad of a commute time, but it could vary. It depends upon which way you want to take. If you go this way straight in, you're looking at about 33 minutes. Now going back out, we're going to flip-flop that because right now it's a commute time leaving Charlotte. So at the end of the day, when you are going home from Charlotte to Gastonia, it's about 37 to 40 minutes because right here it gets really backed up. And the reason why it gets backed up is because there is this road right here, 45. All of this traffic is merging into there as well. So if this was popping up, it would also be red. So that is why that is a little bit busier. So we're going to do the same thing going down into Rock Hill, South Carolina. Here we go. So Rock Hill, South Carolina, coming out of Charlotte, you're looking at about a 40-minute commute. So that's a 40-minute commute into Rock Hill. And if we were to go ahead and move that cursor up here into Fort Mill, which a lot of people desire Fort Mill instead, it cuts it all the way down to 33 minutes, which is wonderful. Now, next one on the docket, this one I have a lot of clients that look in Waxhaw. Waxhaw is a challenging area because you do take back roads pretty much every way down this. And here we go. Here's one of our challenges right now. From downtown Charlotte into Waxhaw, you're looking at about a 56-minute commute, close to an hour. And at the time that this is being filmed, it's not quite peak traffic area or peak traffic time yet. So keep that in mind. Now, if you're looking more to go to Indian Trail, Matthews area, again, about 30 minutes, which is not too bad at all. Midland, which is, as you can see, quite on the outskirts. While it looks really far away, it's only about 40 minutes. So if you're looking to go to Midland, which is a little bit more farm, a little bit more country, the commute time still is really not that bad. Now, if we flip-flop, you can see the commute time does not really change, which is great. So let's take a look at going to Harrisburg. So Harrisburg, NC, again, about 30 minutes. So whenever people are moving here, that's pretty much what I tell them. Expect about a 30-minute commute almost anywhere you need to go. If you're going down to the heart of Concord, once again, 35 minutes, 40 minutes. If you're going up into Kannapolis, you're looking at about 35 minutes. Cornelius, which usually this is one of the more challenging ones at this time of the day, you're looking at about 25 minutes. Mooresville, usually a little bit further, so it's going to take longer, 40 minutes. Now, one thing I'm going to mention here, your commute time can be drastically reduced because between right about here, actually, I take that back. Well, it does run the whole way. It's right about here that you can enter onto it. But I-77 on the northern border, on the northern side, has installed 2 side-by-side toll lanes, so 2 going north, 2 coming south, that are toll lanes that you can follow all the way up into Mooresville. So if you're in a hurry and you know where that traffic starts, I do this all the time. I hop on right about here, ride it to the other side, and then hop back into the main lane where I'm not paying to commute. Same thing, if you were to flip-flop it, there's usually a little bit of traffic, even going southbound this time of day, right in this little nook. Why that is, honestly, I can't wrap my head around, but the lanes don't change, they don't merge, they don't do anything, but everybody just kind of sits right here. So you can hop right on to I-77, the toll lane, the fast lane, and get where you need to go even quicker. Charlotte does have the access to the Easy Pass as well, so it can save you some money, which is wonderful. So I'm going to flip-flop that back again. And now we're going to take a look at what I was talking about earlier, which is being in the middle of Sherrills Ford. Sherrills Ford is going to have one of your longest commutes, which is 51 minutes. However, it's almost the same, if not less, than you being down in Waxhaw. All right, so keep that in mind. So if you want lake life, 52 minutes is not too bad. Denver, again, another desirable area. You're looking at 36 to 50 minutes. And the long stay away, that Lincolnton that I talked about earlier, Lincolnton's going to have about 45 minutes. Once again, you're going to sit into that same traffic. So that is a little bit of a look at what you can avoid traffic-wise when you're picking where you want to go. Now, I told you I was going to hit on this, but we're going to hit on commute times when it comes to travel for train. So there's only one train that goes from the university all the way down into downtown Charlotte. And then you have the southern stretch, which basically follows I-77. Now, it's not as highly trafficked like it would be in New York or things of that nature. I know I used to take the subway and the LIRR all the time, but there's not anything other than that one straight line. So a lot of times it's people from the university going into downtown. It's used more so in the evenings and after hours because there's plenty of parking along this way. So you can park your car, take the train all the way into downtown, and then take the train back out and Uber home from where your car is parked. So it's a safer way to get there. And last but not least, when it comes to commute and transit, so many people that I know, including myself, fly quite a bit. The Charlotte Douglas International Airport is actually quite close to just about anything in Charlotte. I believe the farthest distance that you would have to drive is if you're going from the Midland area to the airport. But as you can see from our commute times, it's all about the same from every other area of Charlotte. Now, the nice thing is it's right off of 45 and 85. So no matter where you're coming from, I have friends and family that'll drive in from Asheville just to use the Charlotte International Airport. From this area right up here to the airport takes about 20 minutes. So honestly, 20 to 40 minutes maximum is all you're going to be spending to get to the Charlotte airport. There's one other option when it comes to airports. We're going to zoom back up on here. Hopefully it pops up here in a second. But right up here in Concord, which is right near the mall, so the mall is right here, right up in Concord, there is another airport. Now in this airport, this is where you have airlines like Allegiant fly out of, or private planes. If you want to learn how to fly, this is a great place to do it. It's definitely a smaller airport, but the nice thing is you have two options on either side of Charlotte, depending upon what you're desiring to fly out of. Charlotte's easy to go through. I've never had any issues, so it's definitely a desirable spot. So I hope this laid out what you guys were looking for when it comes to getting a better understanding of what's going on in each of the suburbs around Charlotte. And we're going to take a deeper dive on every single one of these suburbs to make sure you understand and know where to pick when moving to Charlotte. So hopefully you have a much better understanding of Charlotte's ins and outs. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. We'd love to know your thoughts. And remember, whether it's 9 days or 90 days, whether you're moving across the country or across the state, we would love to help you. My name's 𝗖𝗁, local real estate agent of Charlotte. Would love to help you make sure you can find the perfect home in the perfect spot that fits you and your needs. Until our next video, I look forward to seeing you around town.